Steve Dale, Head of Product, and welcome to June's Pixel8 update.
I'm Alex Skinner, I'm the CEO of Pixelate, and we're going to start this month talking about Memcon. So Memcon is a senior leadership network for the membership sector. They've been going now for around 20 years. Pixelate has been involved for a number of years. Much like last year, it's being delivered again online. There's going to be a talk from Jonathan and Luke, who are going to be focusing very much on how to design for membership growth. Lucy and I will be also talking on traits, trends and transformation. We'll also be launching the results of our survey from the membership forecast.
The membership forecast is our annual survey where we look at the digital trends across the sector. Tickets are available on the Memcon website, so go to the link that's on the screen right now to sign up.
So first of all, this month we welcome a new client, which is SBAI. It's another Ready membership project. That's also Ready membership with our Microsoft Dynamics connector. So that's connecting to a vendor called Innovate. Some quite interesting functionality and some reasonably tight timescales. So more on that one soon. Next up, we have got a launch for IBMS. So IBMS is a full web delivery using our Preside platform as well as some Ready membership components. But IBMS wanted to be able to launch their Congress early on the platform. So we've done a split delivery where they're using the Eventfolio element of our platform to deliver their online Congress. And then obviously later on this year, we'll be following up with the full website build, which also includes Brightspace integration with D2L. There is actually a D2L webinar this month for those that are interested to learn a little bit more about that platform. Details of that are available on the screen now. So one other launch that we've had this month is for SportEd. They're a charity dealing with young people in grassroots sport. This is a Ready charity project launch. It's not a full website platform. It's just a portal, but it's a portal in CRM. And this one's really been delivered in record time. So I think we started the workshops for that project in March. And we've gone through a migration launch and that launched this week.
This was one of the Ready charity sites that we developed recently. A lot of it was just using kind of out-of-the-box functionality, but there was still some custom work that we did for them around directories and things like that.
And finally, some team news. So we have another new starter this month. So Joshua Tan has joined the team. And he is a customer success coordinator. So as part of the customer services team, he's really there to provide wraparound care for our projects. So he's been joining and getting up to speed. So now over to Steve to learn a little bit more about what the development team have been up to this month.
Thanks, Alex. So the payments process is something that I wrote about in a blog post a good couple of months ago now. So what we've done is we've been getting quite a bit of feedback around how our payments process works, which is on Ready membership terms, it's kind of consolidated payment. So it doesn't matter if you're paying for an event ticket or membership or kind of any old kind of ad hoc purchase. It all goes through the same process. But what we did start to find is there were some places where it wasn't clear, and really just the whole experience wasn't as fluid and as enjoyable as we really wanted to do.
And what will the main difference be in terms of a project delivery, in terms of how the payment processes work now?
We cater now for, I guess, a great deal of other options in terms of the layout is a lot nicer for where you have multiple payment options for something you're buying. We also find that how we handled addresses was a little bit kind of fiddly because obviously for our members, you could have individuals who are buying something. They may have an address already on the system. They may not. They may be working for an organization and that organization might have addresses. They might need to edit their address. So that really wasn't clear exactly what you had to do there. What we also wanted to do as well is that we do have members who buy in a certain context, which is fairly unusual, I guess, for a lot of our sector. You're not always buying on behalf of yourself. Sometimes you are purchasing on behalf of the organisation, and you want to enter different information and different kind of billing addresses at that point as well.
As I understand it, Steve, some of these changes are also going to lay some foundations for some of the other improvements that we're looking to make around payments. So can you tell me a little bit more about that?
At the moment, we've been very much focused on things like event tickets, where it's a physical event, and therefore the tax you pay is based on the location of the event. Obviously, the world's changed dramatically over the last 12 months, and where you have things like webinars, the tax is totally different. So the tax is actually where you consume it, not where, because it's virtual, it doesn't really exist. We've moved things around a bit. So one of the first things you'll now do is put in your billing address. And then based on that information, whether it's a company purchase as well, and whether you've got a VAT number, we validate the VAT number. We look at your location, and we're using some third-party services in order to understand, is this a digital product you're purchasing? In which case, let's look up and see what tax rate does apply for you now. And one of the brilliant things about this as well is that this looks into kind of what the future tax will be as well. So if you've got a webinar which isn't until next year, that tax rate may have changed by the time you actually consume it. So we've got a service where we'll put that data in, and it will tell us what the tax rate will be on the date of that webinar.
Yeah, I think it's interesting that obviously we've looked at things like multilingual, and we already consider sort of the multilingual elements of things, but obviously virtual events has brought this to the forefront, I suppose, in terms of where somebody is and what tax rate they pay. But I mean, one of the other brilliant things about this is it's going to be really helpful for our US clients in terms of, we know that sales tax is also a consideration for them as well. So obviously a number of benefits. You touched a little bit on virtual events. I know we've also done a lot more on virtual events this month. What have we been up to there?
The virtual events platform is progressing in terms of some of the functionality around kind of the interactive nature of these, of being able to participate more than just look at a feed. So whereas before we were very much reliant on the third-party stream really to provide some of those services, we've now been building all of that ourselves. And it's a lovely experience, something that's very familiar to anyone who kind of uses things like Slack and Skype and things like that. So the really good benefit of it being all in-house, though, is that you can then create rules based on that. So it doesn't just persist for the length of that stream. It persists beyond that, and then you can create rules about who engaged and look at the measures of performance. How engaging was particular sessions, how many people participated, those kind of things. So there's an awful lot of data that we'll be collecting and being able to create actions from.
I think chat's going to be an interesting sort of pillar for the platform going forward. And as you say, the fact that we've got control of it, that it means that sort of on-demand sessions we can still persist the chat for if we want to. I think that's really interesting. But it is obvious to me as well that we'll end up extending this with the communities product, and also potentially even for sort of self-service and case management, to be able to have tooling that allows membership organizations to sort of provide the sort of functionality that you would have historically seen with things like human click and live person and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely exciting to see that coming.
Yeah, and I guess on that note, on a similar way that we've approached payments, whereas before that there might be 3 or 4 disparate kind of payment workflows, in the same with the chat, as users, they might participate in a chat and events, and that experience that they have then when they use chat in other contexts across the site will be consistent. So they'll have that familiarity, which will, really help them as well.
I know also on the subject of virtual events, we've also been doing some stuff around Exhibitor Zones. Can we see a bit of a sneak peek on that?
Definitely, yes. So, Eventfolio's had sponsors in this kind of area before and partners, but what the Exhibitor Zone allows us to do is to set up exhibitors, and they have a virtual home where they can not just put information about the services they provide, they can also put contact information, and also then people who visit in those zones can also then engage in conversations with them using our new chat system as well. So it's a really nice experience. And then you can then search across, I want to find an exhibitor in this particular area. So you can then do that as well. And I think the thing to point out as well is not just for virtual events. So the Exhibitor Zone is going to persist when we get back to having physical events as well, or even those hybrid events. So so it'll be, Eventfellow will be more than just a brochure site really for those events. You'll be able to engage in that material while you're actually at the event as well, no matter if it's virtual or physical.
I think the whole idea of Exhibitor Zone is quite interesting. And as you say, the whole idea of, just having a stand for the life of the event doesn't really make sense in a virtual world. There's no reason they can't have that Exhibitor Zone persisting for a longer period of time. In fact, I was talking to a client earlier on today about the idea of using that Exhibitor Zone functionality that we've created and using it to extend their existing supplier directory offering, because it's much the same idea of having a stand or having a bit more of a sort of enhanced presence within the supplier directory. So I think especially for organizations that have sponsors or trade associations, this is going to be some pretty exciting functionality.
Definitely. So we're joined today by Tracy. Tracy works in the product team. Before we start, Tracy, could you give us a little bit of background about yourself?
My background is 15 years as a project manager and consultant. I've always worked in the sector, so in not-for-profit sector with charities, member organisations, associations, trade union bodies.
Great. So what role were you playing at Pixel8?
As a project manager, ensuring that the kind of release of the Ready membership solution was going through with different clients. But I'm moving from that role to much more of a product consultant role. And that enables me to bring back some of the feedback from the clients back into the product to enhance it.
So what does consultancy actually involve? So how do you advise and assist with new clients and projects?
Yeah, so my role as consultant, product consultant, is involved in all of the stages of project delivery. So that includes the discovery phase, where we look at the client's requirements, we look at their business processes, and we also demonstrate and review the product to make sure we're covering customizations, configuration, and just trying to simplify as well, and move from what may have been kind of your processes that were paper-based to much more digital processes.
What kind of mix of projects do you get involved with, and what do you kind of like doing?
At Pixel8, there's a good variety. Some where we just deliver websites, some where we're just delivering CRM. But on the main, with the Ready membership solution, and I think this differentiates it, is the fact that we're delivering both and everything. So right through from all the website content and user journeys, customer self-service, to then your CRM backend and all of your backend business processes, such as being able to manage applications, being able to set up events and conferences to allow the end users to access that type of content. I think the examples that I can pull out from the projects that we've just recently done are ITI. We enabled them to, again, bring the website right up to the front and center, and re-establish their brand and guidelines around the website and how they use content, and then also their CRM, so making sure that they have that 360-degree view of contacts, but now more greatly linking the two up so they can get an understanding of what their members are accessing in terms of content, being able for specific members to join groups and utilize all the groups functionality, such as being able to discuss documents, chat to each other, those types of things. And then also with ACB, so enabling them to have virtual events. And I think that's a big one, where we're taking the product onto a much more enhanced digital platform. So enabling clients to do that either blended or full digital experience for events.
Both of those were involved moving over to go cardless, weren't they, for their join process and renewals?
So both needed the services of kind of much more automated direct debits. They were using running direct debits manually. So where a member or contact can sign up to direct debit online, it's processed for them. In essence, there's no kind of staff intervention needed for that direct debit to be authorized and for payment to be taken. And the process of Go Cardless set up, we normally help clients through that, signing up to Go Cardless, kind of migrating data and matching the data, and then to actual testing through the payments and making sure that we can do the whole big bulk live payment set.
What can new clients expect when they first sign up to work with Pixel8?
During the discovery, there's consultants and the design team who are heavily involved in shaping what the solution will eventually look like for a client. During the build phase, they will have much more of the project manager involved, and we have good guidelines around how we'll shape the build sprints. What a client can expect kind of is much more access to us as well post the delivery to ensure that any next future phases are planned out. So we strategically look at what is to come, not just for that month after go live, but 3 months to 6 months down the line, and for the year if that's a good option as well.
What is most interesting really for us is you've come from being a client really to now working for Pixel8. So how do you find that?
As I said, I have a long history with Pixel8. Having worked in a consultancy agency, I got to understand what kind of Pixel8's business ethos was doing vendor selections. And then also being on client side delivering Pixel8 projects. We're kind of very client-centered with everything that we do, getting the audience right, and yeah, enabling the client to be able to garner the best out of the solution, and actually shaping the solution with all of that experience, both from the client side and now on the inside developing the product itself.
So Tracy, just finally, what would you say to clients who are considering using Pixel8?
I think you're going to get expertise across the teams. That's a really key thing. Expertise and specialisms. People that work in Pixel8 have done so in the sector for a really long time. They have a really good sound understanding of the client's needs and how to project them more strategically as well, not just operationally.
Thank you very much, Tracy, for joining us. It's been really insightful, and I'll let you get on with your day. All right, thank you very much. All right, cheers.
So that's everything for this month. As ever, if you want to sign up to our email newsletter, The Forward, please do so. And you can also subscribe to our YouTube channel to make sure you're getting the latest Pixelate updates.
See you next time.
See you next time.